Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. We're on day 2 of VRM Intel Live Online. This is Friday, April 17th, and we are live with Brooke Fouts, David Angotti, and CJ Sam, the power trio, the Avengers. I'm excited that you guys are here. These are 3 of the smartest guys in our industry, and I'm not going to spend any time talking about myself. Brooke, I'll turn it over to you.
How about that? That's a quick intro. Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you, everybody, for coming out here early this morning. We're excited to kind of go over some of the stuff, especially given the circumstances that we have right now. So, just kind of kick it off. We'll do a quick little intros. My name is Brooke Fouts. I've been in the industry for about 13 years. Founded a company called Vantage Resort Realty in Ocean City, Maryland. That was back in 2007. Built it up pretty quickly. Sold it in 2013. We had about 500 properties under management when I sold it. And then I was Chief Business Development Officer for a large company down in Orlando. Did that for about 5 years. And then the last couple of years, I've really been focused, with Vintori. And that's, Vintori is a sales and marketing agency where we help professional vacation rental managers grow their inventory. So we don't do anything with guests. We don't do anything with OTAs or operations. We focus on one thing and one thing only, and that's helping professional managers grow their inventory. So, David.
My name's Dave Angotti. I've had the chance to be in the industry in one way or another almost 10 years now. Started out in property management back in 2013. And we grew that company pretty rapidly up to about 120 units and sold it off about 2 years later to V-Trips. After that, we became a micro OTA, a geo-local OTA with SmokyMountains.com. And then with coronavirus, decided that was the perfect time to launch the second one. So we're well underway with FloridaPanhandle.com now. CJ?
I'm CJ Stam. I own and operate Southern Comfort Cabin Rentals in Blue Ridge, Georgia. My background started in hospitality, worked in several executive business class hotels, moved into real estate investing, and then found myself managing a couple vacation rentals that we owned. From there, I acquired Southern Comfort Cabin Rentals in 2009, and since then I've grown it tenfold, and looking forward to the future and continuing to do so.
Awesome. Thanks, CJ. All right, so here's what we're going to be going over today. So today's topic, we're going to focus on inventory acquisition, and then we're going to talk about how you can retain that inventory through owner marketing and communication, and then we'll kind of close it out with Q&A and our panel discussion. So with that said, let's kick it off. So first off, just on as far as inventory acquisition, the highlights go. We're going to talk about that this is probably one of the greatest opportunities ever to pick up inventory we've ever seen in our industry. We're also going to talk about why now is the time to help and modify your rental program. We're going to dig into data. We're going to talk about a 360-degree multi-channel marketing plan, and this is really kind of the meat of everything. We're going to talk about some risk reversal strategies you can implement. And then also we're going to highlight rule of reciprocity. So that said, we'll kick it off. So first off, Amy and I had this conversation last week. I honestly believe this is probably one of those once in a lifetime type situations where there's going to be more inventory changing hands, I would say, over the next 6 months than probably what I've seen over the last 13 years of being in this business. It's going to come from multiple sources, but there is going to be a lot of inventory changing hands. And one of my favorite quotes, is Warren Buffett, and he says, be fearful when people are greedy, and be greedy when people are fearful. And there is a ton of opportunity right now that's going to be, coming down the pike. So, a couple different avenues as far as where that inventory is going to come from. At Vintori, we create personas of targets, and 2 of the big ones that I see of a lot of inventory changing hand would be, the first is what we're going to call first-time Franks. So first-time Frank has never rented out his second home before. There's thousands and thousands of them first-time Franks out there. They're high net worth individuals usually. They haven't had to rent out their home. But look, situations have changed recently. Maybe they own a restaurant, maybe they own a retail shop, or maybe they've just been laid off and now they've been forced to having to start renting out. When I built Vantage Resort Realty, we started in October 2007. And over 2008 and 2009, much of the inventory we actually picked up was from first-time Franks. And I think we probably wouldn't have grown as fast as we did had we not, been in a recession and starting in a recession. I think it was close to a third or 30% of our inventory that we were signing up was actually what we call first-time Franks. Going over next to RBO Rubies, rent by owner Ruby. This is a persona that has been doing it themselves. And another quote is, everyone's happy when you're winning, right? When times are good and you can market these properties pretty easily and everything's going well, times are good. I think times have changed obviously over the last 4 weeks. And these RBO Rubies have probably been hit hard, with cancellations, and they see how difficult it is to do this. So I think you're going to see a lot of transition of this persona where people are going to be, signing up and want to find professional management. And David, you want to talk about kind of just about companies faltering here?
Yeah. So basically, we're looking at a time where, for the recent history at least, this is going to be the most churn we've seen, with companies going out of business and homeowners moving from one program to the other for these various reasons. And really, I think before we even talk about the companies that falter, we should think about the different buckets a company could fall into right now. And so really, if you're a company out there, you're either going to fall into one of three modes. The worst one is one of those companies that may falter. You could be at the, right there strapped for cash, and you're just looking at, how do I survive another week or another month? And quite honestly, this session, from a standpoint of how do you go out and acquire homeowners to make money 3 months from now, may not be the most helpful to you if you're in that bucket. The next bucket up is you're fairly healthy as anybody can be, with no revenue coming in right now, or minimal revenue coming in, a property manager that's looking to acquire inventory and come out of this stronger than you went into this. And that's likely at least half of the people on the call here today. And then you finally have the companies that are in aggressive acquisition mode right now. They're looking to pick up stuff at a steal, and they're looking to go after those companies that are at the bottom, the ones that may be faltering at this point. And so you have these different tiers of companies based on financial health and other things right now. But that bottom tier is one of the tiers, unfortunately, that will help the next two tiers succeed well through the recession or through the crisis. However, if you're in that bottom tier, now is the time to think, okay, how do I either survive or how do I exit, in a way that's meaningful for me and my family? But I do think that we're going to see companies falter through this. CJ, you want to tackle how you're talking with owners that may be upset?
Yeah, so we've already started hearing from some owners in our market that are in a current management company that is either faltering or just has not handled their communications with their owners very well, causing them to have additional uncertainty. I would say that the two main things that we're hearing from owners that are contacting us now is that they were not happy with the way that their current manager handled their cancellation. They were too quick to cancel. They gave refunds. They gave on rescheduling. On the biggest one was lack of communication. They've tried to call the company multiple times. Nobody's answering. Nobody's returning calls.
Awesome. Thanks, CJ. All right. Up next, we're going to talk about, now is probably the time to modify. If you're going to change and modify your program, now's the time to do it. And, how you can reverse engineer your program based on the pain points of your potential owners. So, David, you're going to, I think, tell some examples of how you did this with your management company in Gatlinburg.
Yeah, so when we started SmokyMountains.com and our property management division there in Gatlinburg at that time, it was a super competitive market. And now I look at it like I only went into it because I had naive optimism. But, I was this homeowner that wasn't happy with the with the property management offerings out there, and I knew my pain points really, really well. My pain points were things like, nickel and diming. Every contract, I'd been with a couple different property managers. They were hitting me with 9 to 12% of what I call the hidden fees. There was just a lack of revenue. And then the transparency and communication was super lacking with a few of the companies I was with. The property was getting damaged. And so I took all of these different pain points. And from those pain points, I structured our whole initial contract. I structured what our program was going to look like. How were we going to solve these different pain points? Because I knew from talking with just different owners, even in my HOA, if we could figure out those pain points, and then if we could make sure that everybody actually had these pain points, and then if we could figure out a way to solve the pain points, that signing up owners would be pretty easy. And it turned out that that was actually that was true. Now, had we just gone at it with the same way the other several hundred property managers in town were doing things at that point, it would have been an uphill battle. We didn't have a single property on the program. That's a hard sell when you're trying to make that sale. And to convince somebody to give you an asset that may be worth over $1 million to manage when you have no management experience. The way we were able to convince people was we took these pain points and we solved them by basically engineering a program completely around them.
I like it. Yeah, and this is part of the, what we recommend for all of our partners is to do the exact same thing, and it works. Cool. Next, we're going to talk about data and just how important, data is. And I don't know if you've ever heard the quote, it all starts with a good list, but it's so, so true. And, to me, data is probably one of the most important steps you can do as far as owner acquisition. And it's also one of the most underlooked. A lot of people don't really spend a lot of time in it. But to me, it's kind of like building a solid foundation on a house. If you have really good data to begin with, it's going to make your campaigns much more efficient, much more targeted. You'll probably end up saving money in the end by spending a little bit more money up front, just kind of getting really good, clean data and sliced and diced. I like to say it's kind of like a sniper approach versus a shotgun approach. But what we're going to do here is I'm going to talk about kind of how we do it from an agency perspective. Obviously, we have different resources than the average vacation rental manager does, and then I think David's going to talk about how he did it in Gatlinburg, where he was a little bit more scrappy, and did it himself and his business partner. So from our perspective, what we're doing with data is the first off is we have a full-time data analyst. I mean, he goes out there. We've got a direct pipe with the largest compiler of data on the planet. We get agency pricing. We can pull tons of records. We can pull mortgage records. We can get absentee owner lists. We can pull information like bedroom counts, square footage, assessed value of a swimming pool is present. I mean, we can get a ton of information from the mortgage data, and then he's overlaying that with OTA data that we have, so we can get additional fields like ADR, guest reviews, and additional information. And then we're overlaying other additional information like email and phone compilers, and then what we're able to do that is we can now upload that and do get social profiles, so we can get Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn profiles, and then we're running pivot tables and slicers, and we can be really highly targeted in a very, very efficient way. So I mean, if you want to send out an email campaign or a social media campaign or a retargeting IP targeting campaign to only people with oceanfront condos that are 4 bedrooms and greater with an ADR 800 and higher, we can do that. And then in the next slide, we're going to talk about how you can, target these owners in not just one way, not just the traditional, sending a postcard out, but actually hitting them from full 360 degrees. So that's how we do it from an agency perspective. And again, we've got different resources than the average, property manager. But David, if you want to kind of highlight how you and your partner would roll up your sleeves and kind of do it yourself.
Yeah, so scrappy could also be like third level of hell is what you could just like, after hearing what Brooke just said and then hearing, okay, we're going to do it in a more rudimentary fashion, it's kind of a little tough. But if you don't have the budget to go hire Brooke or an agency right now, then these are some of the things you can do. So tax records, almost every single city has a tax record lookup. Once you find the tax record lookup, there's typically condo buildings or there's neighborhoods that are the more resort style neighborhoods that you can then go through and one by one, either copy and paste those or pay somebody through a platform like Upwork to build you a simple scraper to pull those over into a spreadsheet. Once you have that, even if you don't have all of the data sources that Brooke was just mentioning, you can do something as simple as drive by all the properties. Again, this is super painful, but we probably have some extra time right now, at least I do, and I imagine most people out there do. You can drive through that neighborhood. You can take pictures of the front of each unit as you drive by them if it's a traditional style home. You can try to find the signs that have the name of the property to personalize the communication. Again, this is super tedious work, but it makes your communications to that potential homeowner much more relevant when you know the name of their property, or you have a picture of the front of it, or you can address them by name and by neighborhood and things like that. And so anybody can go do that just with tax record lookup, with a little bit of legwork driving by, and it might be a good way to keep some of your people busy through this time, even though it is the scrappy or third level of hell method.
Did we lose somebody?
Brooke, you still there?
Brooke
He's
appears
either
to
really
be.
thinking hard or he got frozen.
Well, while we're waiting for Brooke to come back, I'm just going to hop in on what David was saying, because I've done both, right? I've gone through and done the scrappy, and I've retained Brooke services, and I can tell you there is a huge difference. I agree that if you've got the bandwidth right now, using the scrappy approach is definitely a way to, fill some of your time as you're creating your plan to come out out of crisis mode, if you will. But if you find yourself in a situation to where you want to have the ability to contact owners, bringing on a agency like Brooks would be an obvious option to consider.
CJ, what do you think the homeowner's looking for right now during this?
Well, the hardest thing at this point in time is some sort of certainty, someone to tell them what they think is going to happen next, or when, these areas that are shut down, when they're going to be allowed to rent again. I'm finding that the secondary services are very attractive. We do still have a staff in place. We've kept our maintenance people on, we've kept our property managers on. Most of our cleaners are independent contractors, and we're still working to get additional deep cleans and things like that for them. So several of the owners that we've spoken to recently, both people that are looking to potentially move, we have cautioned them that maybe right now is too early. We like to, allow some of our, especially our friendly competitors in our market, some time to get their footing. It's not good for anybody to react, right? We want to help them develop a plan if they're going to move. But I can tell you that the ones that are coming, like the first-time Franks that are not in a rental program already that we've talked to, they have all kinds of projects and all these normal things that they have to go through to get their house set up. And if they're out of state, they're looking for a company that can still do these things, that can go out and help them to set their home up. I was on a listing appointment this past week, and that was their major concern. They had a lot of things that they wanted to do to be ready for when they're allowed to rent again, but they're in a position to where they can't execute. And our team is going to be able to do that for them. So I think if anybody's scaled back so much because they have to, consider the independent contractors. Everybody right now is looking for some way that they can make money after they've done the work. It doesn't, you don't have to depend fully on your employee team if you've had to downsize.
What's your situation right now in Blue Ridge?
So it's interesting. I sent an owner update out last night. We're very encouraged by, the phased opening. I know that there is some, lots of schools of thought on that, whether it's, you know, the smart move or not, but it is encouraging that at least some plan at the highest level has been presented, and they're allowing state and local governments to start making some decisions based on those guidelines. The challenge that we've got in Blue Ridge is the local authorities are still very hesitant to make a move. And the next week, I believe, is going to be the most crucial week. They had to make some very, very fast, tough decisions like other markets, some that may have seemed reactionary and very extreme, but their objective was to, you know, preserve the resources in the community and protect the residents. So me plus some of the other lodging association members and some of the other professional managers, we complied with them in hopes that they'll be favorable to us when plans return to, you know, open us back up again. So right now, that's the biggest thing. I believe it's local municipalities and the decisions that they're going to make to allow rentals back in.
Yeah, it looks like we just got an announcement that Gulf Shores is doing a partial open starting on May 1st, I think. And then with the goal of trying to be open by Memorial Day. Gatlinburg reopened. We've got both of their CVB leaders and presidents and the head of the CVB in Myrtle Beach coming up in a couple of hours. So I'm kind of excited to hear from the destination viewpoint, because we talked a lot yesterday with the panels about the travel shaming situation, that the locals have really driven this. I don't think a lot of these vacation rental oriented destinations would have pushed for closings if the locals had not been so vocal on social media about not wanting people from other areas, you know, in their destinations. And I've just never really seen that before in the industry. Is that happening there too?
I mean, fear drove that. People were very afraid of the unknowns of this virus. And I believe that every week as we learn more about it and information is really starting to get better, I believe, about the virus, I'm noticing in our market that the officials are starting to get a little impatient themselves. They're now starting to see their coffers drying up. Our area is very dependent on the lodging tax. And listen, the bottom line is the bottom line. They're starting to see it themselves right now. And I believe that they're having conversations now with the state government about how they're going to get some aid from the state. And if the state looks at our area closely, they're going to see that if they allow vacation rentals to start back in a monitored or a metered, measured way, that they're not going to have to put as much aid into the area as they might have to do if they keep us shut down.
As far as
couple that with people are just tired of staying at home, and you know, CJ and I've had some conversations about this. There's the unique opportunity to continue to quarantine while you're on a semi-vacation, maybe even still working from the vacation spot. I think there's some pretty good opportunities either for a destination or a PM to capitalize on this as we come back out the other side of this. You know, just funny enough, even yesterday we saw a pretty good pop in bookings relative to where we've been here in the Smoky Mountains in it. And so it doubled or tripled where it was the day before, and the day before that had been double or triple the day before that. So we've started to see.
We looked at some data yesterday that really supported that. That in the last 3 days we've seen quite a spike in booking activity.
Exactly. Best I can tell, looking at the data, it started on around last Friday or Saturday, and it's continued since then and growing pretty steadily for at least our brands.
So CJ, as far as homeowner acquisition before and after, is it different, or is it a similar strategy for you?
Well, oddly enough, we had some mailings already set like on a calendar. And when this first started, we were in that vital moment where we had to make a decision. Are we still going to allow that campaign to run or not? And I decided to go ahead and let it run. And it yielded a decent amount of calls for us, more than I would say a normal one, because people they have a heightened sensitivity to things right now, and yeah, our phone rings. So I would say that we're going to continue to run our normal campaigns. We may tweak some of our messaging. Dave and I and others have been talking about, sanitation is going to be one of the biggest hot buttons for guests. How the home is treated between stays.
So did you hear that yesterday with Bob Allen and Vacasa? Yeah, we were talking to Turnkey and Vacasa yesterday, and they would not commit to professionally laundered linens, saying that in rural areas that a housekeeper who can do the laundry in the unit or in the property can do just as good of a job. And I thought it was interesting because what we've seen is most property managers moving during this, talking about what you're talking about, at least to that piece of it. What else are you doing on the disinfectant?
Opportunity, I would say, for vacation rental managers that have linen services already in place to set up a leasing system to these guys who do not.
Mm-hmm.
And lease some of their linens out, expand their operation. I mean, this would be a major revenue source, I think, for some managers that already have those facilities in place. And I'd be very hesitant to go back to washing linens at a property, especially during this time. A lease situation is probably the fastest, most economical way to get professionally laundered linens quickly.
Welcome back, Brett.
Hey, I'm back. Sorry about that. It's very opportune time for my computer to decide to crash.
Trust me, I understand.
And sorry about that. And now I'm using my daughter's laptop, which I'm trying to get the slide decks off and share my screen here. So I'll let you guys continue to chat while I'm trying to take over as presenter.
Yeah, how are you, CJ, as far as using, because I know you, with your laundry services, are you using that to market to new homeowners?
Yeah, that's already part of our outbound campaigns, is that we offer complimentary door lock as well as complimentary linens. There's no cost to join our program to get those two things.
Do you charge for photography and stuff like that too?
We have a startup fee that includes photography. We use that startup fee as well as another thing that, if we want to be aggressive, we can offer the photography and as a complimentary startup. Updates, on the other hand, are different.
So my understanding is you built out some reporting for your homeowners too. Did I hear that correctly?
Using Key Data Dashboard, our revenue manager was able to create a really nice market report that we've been sending out now to our owners, showing them, what we're doing with some of our marketing and the trends in the area. We're waiting until we again, when the certainty that we need is a date that we're allowed to start renting again with some guidelines. And then I want to be able to show lines of what the area looked like, what we look like, how we were able to preserve rentals, or what our rebound looks like. I think that will be very powerful information that you can share with prospective owners as well as your own. Kind of jumping back to the retention piece of this conversation, data has been immensely important to our owners right now. They feel like if they can see something in black and white from us, at least, it makes them feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident.
David, as far as you've worked with homeowners and with property managers, what do you think the homeowners are feeling or thinking right now?
I think your average homeowner is scared right now. Early on, they were like, okay, this is going to pass quickly, or maybe this is a slight speed bump. But once those mortgages keep coming due and no revenue's coming in, it's a tough pill to swallow on the homeowner side, and really on the property manager side, as we all know as well, because they're having to deal with the property owners who are up against these hard hard deadlines in some instances to pay their mortgages or pay different bills on properties.
Would it make a difference to you as a homeowner if what the property manager's cancellation policy is?
I think in a situation like this, as a homeowner, I would have more flexibility than ever before, because all of a sudden, anything my property manager is telling me about, hey, this is an opportunity to, to get in there and secure some reservations where other people aren't able to, I'm probably going to be listening really carefully. Whereas when I'm thinking about, 5–10% down this year versus last year, I may not listen as carefully or have as much trust for their advice. But all of a sudden, that professional advice, those boots on the ground, the person I'm paying to manage my property instead of be an RBO, now I really am going to have more trust in a situation like this if they're communicating well and if they're understanding the market dynamics well.
Hey, Amy, can I jump in and ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
Just would it be possible for Dave to become the presenter and take the slide and put it back up again until Brooke works out whatever kink is happening on his end?
Or were you able to actually throw it back to me? Maybe it reset right there, Amy. So if you throw it back to me, see if that works.
No, it's not a CJ.
All right, it looks like Dave is now the presenter.
Yeah, I don't have Brooke on my list. Oh, there he is. Hang on. No,
All right. Dave, if you just want to maybe pull up the PowerPoint.
Yep, I'm working on that now.
Or the PDF. Actually,
Let me try to throw it back to you, Brett.
actually, yeah,
This is a perfect example of how you stay calm in a crisis.
hey,
we see something there.
I don't know who this is. We've got it. All right, I'm muting myself again.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. Literally, my brand new MacBook Pro and decides to crap out in the middle of a presentation, and now we'll see if my daughter's laptop can figure this out. So. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about this really a 360-degree multi-channel, marketing approach for going after owners. So, most companies traditionally send out, 1 or 2 postcards a year, and that's their owner acquisition strategy. What we recommend for our clients and our partners, we recommend this 360-degree approach. So David and I are going to kind of talk some different ideas of what we've done in the past. So first off, you obviously have direct mail. To me, right now, sometimes, think outside the proverbial box. Sometimes being creative, sometimes actually doing something different. Don't just send a traditional postcard. Maybe try, actually telling your story. The story of how you started in the vacation rental business. Tell them about why you did it and how you did it. To kind of, get that personal connection. I think right now too, just given the light of the situation of everything that's going on with COVID, I think the tone has to be a little bit different. How can you, help not sell? And in the long run, that's going to pay, big dividends. David, I don't know if you want to chime in with any kind of direct mail.
Yeah, a couple things we did on the direct mail front that proved pretty fruitful was neighborhood by neighborhood targeting or building by building targeting with owner testimonials that people might have known in that neighborhood or in that building. That was really fruitful for us. Another one we did a couple times that paid off pretty big was we sent USPS like large sized boxes filled with just branded goodies to high value targets. And we were able to close a few from that, which made the whole mailing well worth it. That was like several hundred boxes at a cost of probably $20 a box. but signed some really high target or high value targets with that.
Nice. And then up next, you have email potentially. So we, when we get our, our list database, we have some email addresses in there, and we are hitting them with drips. Typically, shorter is better than longer in email. And we use a couple tools. We use Lemlist and Mailshake have been pretty successful. And David, I know you've used companies like Yesware with a lot of success too, right?
Yeah, so Yesware is kind of like a poor man's marketing automation tool. Allows you to attach a contract, see how many pages of the contract get viewed, how many times it's been viewed, as well as how many times an email has been opened. Also has some list as well as drip functionalities in it as well, and it's only about $10 a month. So again, kind of back to the scrappy side of the equation, but a good solution.
Mm-hmm. And then social. So if you have, email addresses, you have phones, you can do a custom audiences within Facebook. So you're hitting them again from all angles. So you're doing display ads in their social feed, and we've had a lot of success with that. So they're seeing it from all different angles. And then on PPC, David, I know you're kind of the king of SEO and PPC. You want to talk about some things you did?
Yeah, so on PPC, it was a few things we did. Obviously, all of the owner type keywords, that was pretty easy to get out there and see what they were. Most people weren't bidding too much for those keywords, and we were able to actually, through the whole funnel, close a decent number of those into sales consultations. So we went ahead and bid those really, really high, like $20 a click, and then made sure we had negative keywords on there to prevent poor value clicks. And then the other side of that was we even at times did some real estate branded keywords, so we could hand off leads to different realtors to open up conversations on that front. And that would be kind of like a more backing your way into some homeowners through the realtor that you've handed off leads to. Just makes it a really natural conversation with a realtor of, hey, I have this person that's looking for a house, and by the way, if you ever have somebody that's interested in property management, here's what we can do as well.
Yeah. And then from retargeting perspective, we know historically, even really good converting landing pages. So if you're driving all this traffic from a pay-per-click to a good, well-crafted landing page, which we highly recommend, we still know that, only 90% of the traffic that goes there, 95% of the traffic isn't going to convert. So we want to make sure we're cooking the landing page. We want to make sure we're doing retargeting. And there's even some other creative tools that we found where we can actually 30 to 50% of the time, we can actually capture addresses and email addresses of the people that come to that landing page. So we think we can retarget them. So we know if it's been an initial target we sent out to, they've shown some interest, they've gone to our landing page, we can now hit them with some kind of swag or some kind of gift box or something to kind of help them, convert that on that sales funnel. David, you want to talk any more about retargeting?
Yeah, I mean, we just used AdRoll for retargeting typically, and then we would have different segments of that campaign based on how far they'd made it. Had we done a phone consultation? Had they just viewed the first page? Had they watched a video to a certain length? And then you could basically tailor messaging where they were in their buying process.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then last, this is straight out of like a CIA movie, but you can actually you can get IP addresses of your targets. So you have this database on the initial standpoint, where their home addresses are. About 50% of the time, you can actually get their IP addresses for the devices in their home, so you can start doing display ads. So again, kind of in summary here is, you're getting this full 360-degree targeting to the owners rather than just the traditional drip. And we've even heard stories where owners have said that, heck, you keep on, you're everywhere I go, and you keep on attacking us. If you do half as good a job as marketing, our guests as you do me, I think we'll be in good shoes. So these are kind of our foundational 360-degree multi-channel attack plan. Next up, we're going to talk about risk reversals. And at a high level, risk reversals, it eliminates friction in the buying process. And what you're trying to do is help convert people when they're in that decision-making process. So when they're about to decide, how can you eliminate any kind of pain points or any kind of friction that they might have? So, David, I know you did a couple really good risk reversal strategies at Smoky Mountains.
Yeah, so in the Smoky Mountains region in particular, a lot of property managers were throwing out guarantees, and some of those guarantees had different ways to get out of them, shock of all shocks. And so we were up against some pretty high promises, and one of the ways we dealt with that was a money back guarantee. We told people in the buying process, look, we will give you your money back in any month that you're dissatisfied for any reason. It was written in plain language. That I wrote. The attorney didn't modify that, so people were very comfortable with the language of it. And then they were also pretty comfortable when you said, look, I'm not going to promise you a revenue number that I can't hit, because at the end of the day, you have this money back guarantee that you can pull that lever at any time you want. And so we told 120 homeowners about this during the buying process. Not a single one ever pulled the lever. I like to think that it's because we were pretty honest in our marketing and pretty honest in our sales approach, and it did kind of keep us honest, but it also did remove that friction, because they had questions. Hey, I'm leaving money on the table as I switch to your program. How do I know I'm going to be okay? Well, you're going to be okay because I'm not going to sign your property if I can't make money with it. And then we also did have the no long-term contracts, no startup fees, and just like you said, remove that friction. Because once you start to remove those excuses one at a time, they aren't just excuses, they're mental barriers for that individual, and you need to overcome those.
Well said. Cool. Now we're going to talk about rule of reciprocity. David?
Yeah, so the rule of reciprocity is basically this idea that when you give something to somebody, human nature is they feel like they owe you something. Now, this won't work on psychotic individuals. They've actually done studies about it, but pretty much everybody else, if you give somebody something, it's like that same thing that makes you want to say thank you back to that person. That's the rule of reciprocity. We use that at SmokyMountains.com to make sure that we could continue the sales process going. So every time we talked to an individual that owned a property in our market, we would get their address on that phone call. If they wouldn't give us their address, we'd try to look it up based on what we knew of the property using the tax records, and then we would hit them overnight with about $100 Harry and David basket. It would be on their doorstep the next day. What we found was now people would answer the phones because they felt like they owed us something. This $100 basket that we'd send out probably doubled the sales efforts with people that would have fallen out of the buying cycle there. I can tell you one homeowner who owned 3 properties with us that did about $500,000 a year gross between their 3 properties, flat out told us that they had decided not to go with us, but felt like they had to answer the phone and tell us thank you. And then we were able to convince them on that call. So very, very powerful.
Yeah. And CJ, I know we've implemented a rural reciprocity campaign for you.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with what David was saying. And the cool thing is you can have different levels of gifts. Ever since I took over Southern Comfort Cabin Rentals in 2009, every single year we've sent Christmas gifts without missing a beat to all of our owners, and it has been very well received every year. But on the owner acquisition side, we've got again, different levels of gift. When they sign up, we can send them some similar to the Christmas gifts. But if we've just met with somebody and we want to follow back up with them, we've got a kind of a smaller gift that is a little bit more affordable, but it's also fun. And our campaign is called We've Got You Covered. And I got some personalized umbrellas that are auto up and auto down, so they're pretty neat. If it's raining, you can open the door, put the umbrella out, it opens backward, and then when you're getting back in the car, you click it and it opens inward, so you can just shake the water out, keeps all the water out of your car. It's just kind of a little neat gift. But we include a postcard with that says we've got you covered, and it reiterates some of the benefits of our campaign from more of a security standpoint. So I definitely think that having different levels of gifts for different occasions is a very wise thing to do.
Cool. All right, we're going to throw it over to CJ, and he's going to go over a lot of the inventory retention through owner communication. He's done a really good job. I've been really impressed with the way CJ has handled his communication to his owners, and he's gotten a lot of great feedback from his owners, and even from some of his his competitors or owners that are with competitor programs. So CJ, let's throw it over to you.
Yeah, so I believe that right now is an opportunity to connect with your owners at a deeper level. Get to really know your owners. A lot of times, if I've been on the sales call or my general manager's been on the sales call, and now we have a business development person going out on sales calls, that person really gets to know the owner well through that process. But the owner doesn't always get to meet everybody on your team. So one of the things that we implemented early was a call list where we'll go down and different employees have been calling our owners to just ask how they're doing and to, you know, kind of pry, if you will, a little bit, but in a very gentle way to learn more about them. How are your kids doing? What's going on? What are you seeing in your community? Things like that. Is there anything that we can do to help you right now? And what we're finding, I mean, we're getting emails, postcards. I received a gift the other day from an owner that they're just so thankful for having that level of communication, because I don't believe that they're really getting that level of communication from other companies that they're involved with. So I think this is a major opportunity for all of us. I mean, make the time for it. If you're a small company, it should be relatively easy. If you're medium sized, but you've had to lay off most of your people, you know, just take an hour a day or you know, and reach out to them, and they want to hear your voice. I mean, that's really a comforting thing. Let's see.
And David, I think you were going to talk about like just proving value, you know, during this.
Yeah, so on the proving value front, one of the things we did after the wildfire came through the Smoky Mountains region, we ended up losing about 20% of our inventory through just catastrophic loss after they burned to the ground. One of the things we were able to do was in a very rapid time frame get through every single property or get to every property that had burned down, actually call the owners from the properties, and then send them photos along with what we were seeing on the ground there. We heard from owners that they really appreciated that. We ended up selling our property management arm shortly thereafter, but I do believe that had we owned that long term from that point forward, that would have been an increased sense of loyalty to us from that. And we had tons of property owners tell us that they had friends with other property management companies that hadn't done anything similar. It's not to say nobody did, but when you can do things like that, when you can be a voice of reason on the ground through a crisis, then you're setting yourself apart.
Yeah, on that, one of our owner updates was actually forwarded from an owner in our program to another owner in another program, and they've since then reached out to us to discuss you know, moving programs when the time is right.
Yeah. CJ, I know you have a kind of a standard email template that you've been sending out for these owner emails. You want to just kind of go over this?
Yeah, I mean, it started right out of the gate when everything, you know, the orders were passed in our area to halt rentals, and it kept getting more and more extreme. Information was moving very quickly, and at first we tried to put a page together on our website that we could just send out and let people go on their own to that page, including our owners and guests. And what we found is that, you know, although the information there was good, it was easy to change, the traffic to that page was not what it should have been to get our message out. So I started a weekly update, and the first one was just, you know, I just poured my heart out and tried to give as much information as I could. And then I promised everybody that I would continue to keep them updated. And it quickly developed a pattern. Everybody here knows I love patterns. So what I did is I was like, you know what, let's just put an outline together where I can give the modified information on each one of these sections each week. And I created a template that essentially has the same subject line. I would just forward the email each time, BCC, all of the owners, some of my employees, people that I wanted to get this update on a regular basis. This is just an example of what that template looks like. Yeah, if you could stay on that, that would be helpful. So the subject would be the number, what number update it is, and a note about COVID-19 was always like that, because I've noticed people just search for, you know, a word in their email that they remember so they can go back to it. I would go through with an opening paragraph, just summarizing my current feelings about what had happened over the course of the last week. If you looked at all of them so far, there have been 9 of them. It was generally optimistic, but sometimes it was like, here we are, like it's getting real right now. We're getting crushed. And then I would go into discussing what the local officials were doing and getting very specific. I would include a copy or attach a copy of the ordinance. I would give highlights from it, you know, go to this section. This is where it relates to what we're doing. Company status, I created 3 levels where we started, which was current, and then going into elevated and then severe. So we've remained in severe now for a little over 3 weeks, which is basically where, you know, the company is essentially put itself into coma, right? We've only got basic operations running, but every week we walked them through what those steps looked like in our company status. Policies that we changed, services that we could offer. And typically our company status would reflect what the local ordinance or govern what the local officials were telling us we couldn't do. And literally it's been changing every week for us. I'm sure it's been the same for many others. Reservation status, we were showing our owners, you know, what the trends were as far as cancellations or rescheduling or new bookings. And I was happy to announce on this week's that it was the first week in over 3 weeks that our inbound reservations actually outpaced our cancellations, because we had hit the bottom. Last week was really hitting the bottom. I mean, we had to move so many reservations or cancel so many reservations that it, you know, it looked glum, but this week it's starting to look up again. So we'll see. Marketing efforts, I've wanted to keep them engaged. We launched a program that was called Here For You. It had already been outlined for our 20-year anniversary, so we just have kind of pivoted to that slogan, if you will, has really resonated very well with our owners as well as our guests. So we've been keeping all of our owners informed as to each step that we've taken to launch that through this time. And then appreciation before closing, always thanking the people that are out there, you know, on the front lines, thanking our staff and how they've been so flexible, and our independent contractors for continuing to go out into the field and make things happen. Thanking our owners for their patience, and then closing. I had the same closing every single time, encouraging the owners to forward the email to their other partners. But I think that's also what prompted some of our owners to maybe forward these emails out, which has become a type of marketing campaign in and of itself.
Awesome. Thanks, CJ.
Yeah.
You would talk about some of the services that you're offering now, like kind of through this period.
Yeah, we would mix this in with the operational status. You know, nature still happens. There were big storms that rolled through our area, and like Chattanooga and Nashville and all up and down the southeast this last week. It was great to be able to let the owners know that we were going out and checking their properties. But it also led to some additional services. We had some trees that were down. We've got pollen that's just now, you know, about to finish its cycle, but it gets all over the decks. And if you don't go out there and wash it off, it bakes on and it creates a bigger problem. So we're offering, you know, all of these additional services. I was talking with Travis up at Stay Charlottesville. He went, and I think David did this as well when they were in the property management business, and bought this special machine that cleans windows. And you can really have anybody, like your maintenance person, operate it. So we're looking at, you know, window cleaning, pressure washing, deep cleans, security checks, and we're just, again, we're pushing all of these options out through that weekly update. And so far it's working really well because these are essential services that we're allowed to continue to offer. And it's continuing to build value between us and our owners, but it is also giving our staff, something to do as opposed to, sitting back and waiting.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So key takeaways here. Come on. First off, now is probably the greatest opportunity ever to grow your inventory. Time is now to modify your rental program. It all starts with a good list. Execute that 360-degree marketing plan. Add risk reversals to your sales program. Consider adopting a rule of reciprocity gift. Leverage this time to develop deeper relationships with owners. And lastly, send a well-crafted owner email. So with that said, that is it. So Amy, you got any, I know we're limited time here. You got any questions?
I do. First of all, yes, the slides will be attached when we post the video. We'll get those from Brooke, but you'll also get the video of this presentation, which includes them. Would you be willing to share a copy of your contracts? I assume that's for you, CJ.
Of my vacation,
huh?
My vacation property management agreement or the guest rental agreement. We didn't talk about this, but I'll just jump in and say it. We're working right now with our attorney to create what I'm calling a unseen circumstances clause. And it's just like our, we have a weather clause built in and into our contract. So that way, if state travel bans continue to roll like this, we can handle, we'll have an alternative booking policy or cancellation policy. I mean, I'd be happy to share maybe parts and pieces of it, or if someone wants to contact me directly, I'd rather speak with them before just sharing it openly.
Yeah, totally. Question for startup costs. CJ mentioned they had no cost to get started, but then he went on to say they have a startup fee. We talked about that. What is his startup fee and what cost does he cover with that fee?
Are you talking about the vacation rental for the owners? Okay, so right now, we have a total cost, what it to bring a property on. We charge $250, and it's just designed to cover the photography really up front. Everything else I look at as a loss leader, cost of acquisition. But so I'll use that 250 as a credit if I really want the property.
One thing that when I was at Turnkey, that was really the onboarding process is actually fairly cumbersome. How many properties could you onboard in a month if you had to?
Oh goodness, realistically, we could go as high as probably 2 a week without sacrificing a tremendous amount of service. Otherwise, I'd really have to look at modifying or scaling operations. But at this point in time, I have a very specific acquisition and growth trajectory that I want to be on. So I'm happy with what we're doing right now.
What about now, CJ? I mean, is it different? You know what I mean? Given this kind of current circumstances, how would you onboard now? If somebody did want to sign up right now.
We're still business as usual as far as that's concerned. I was fortunate my business development person has been cross-trained across she can do every single thing in our organization. So she is one of my essential employees. So she's continued fielding calls, emails. Appointments are different right now because we've just had to be very careful about, going on in-person meetings. I've been the only one to do that.
How is your money back guarantee worded? That's a question that came in.
David, you invented this. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, for us, it was really simple. It just said, it was in paragraph 21. You can see I'm still in sales mode here after all these years. In paragraph 21, it just says in plain everyday language that if for any reason the property owner is dissatisfied They will notify the property management company before the 5th of the following month, and all fees will be refunded with no questions asked.
Another question, really interested to learn how you acquire email and social profiles for, hang on, it cut off.
There's some good email appending services out there. And then once you have the email addresses, and you can also get their phones and those same sources. And once you have their phones, then you can get social profiles. So it's a couple step process, but it can be done.
What is the best way to locate small property managers looking to sell their accounts?
That's a great question.
We can start here. If you're looking to sell your accounts,
We have, I will say a lot of our partners are being aggressive, and they're actually looking to, take advantage of this time and actually go out not only on, pick up, properties one-off basis, but they're looking to buy, companies that can't make it, and companies that are going under. We do have a lot of our partners are actively looking to buy, management contracts during this. So.
Okay, last one before I have to go to Matt and Heather. If an owner wants to make a deal, in quotes, and wants you to accept a lower commission, do you have a way to determine that property's value to you?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll chime in first, and I'll let CJ go. But I mean, I would start off just the value of a property. Typically, you should be able to predict in a normal market. You should be able to predict what the kind of the gross booking revenue would do in a year. And typically, and I've asked this question well over 100 times, but most people most companies net about 10% of the gross booking revenue is usually what falls to the bottom line. So if you have a property that's doing $50,000 in gross booking revenue, before taxes and fees, you're probably going to net about $5,000. And if, let's say, you have an average lifetime in years of 10 years, then you have a lifetime value of $50,000 for that property. And that gives you kind of an idea of what that lifetime value is of that customer. And what we always do on our side is we look at the CAC, the cost to acquire the customer, and kind of divide that by your lifetime value, just to get a good understanding of, is this a good ROI? But that number is also going to go up over time too, because typically most gross booking revenues goes up over time. But CJ, I'll let you kind of chime in from your perspective.
Yeah, it's a formula. It's something along the lines of ADR times PETA equals what the
What does PETA stand for?
So I would just say that every business is different, and how it can accommodate these adjustments to their commission and what their commission needs to be in order to produce the service that they're giving. So look at what you're offering and what it costs you. It's a math problem, but I will tell you right now that meeting with the owner and understanding that owner's motivation and what they expect from you. Listen, an owner that I meet with that I can tell is going to be tough, I'm less likely to move on my commission. So if there are any owners on this call and you're looking at a manager, be cool. That's owners that are cool and they bring you a very marketable property and are going to work with you, right? And they're not going to stand in your way, and they're going to let you do your business, are much more likely to get a better commission from me than ones that are going to be, you can just tell, hard to work with.
I think it's important too to understand that you don't necessarily discount just because somebody's asking. You discount because it makes financial sense to discount, and that financial sense equation is a little bit more complex than just that conversation with the one owner, because inevitably you're going to be asked by somebody else later on, hey, what's the lowest commission you're doing? And so you're telling me nobody else is at a lower commission? Now, do we lie as salespeople? That's a whole different topic that gets into ethics and all of that. But what you do have to realize is these people talk some. And if you can say, yeah, I do have one that's a lower rate, but that's because that property does $300,000 a year and yours is going to do $80,000. Now, if you buy one that does $300,000 a year, I'm happy to match that. And you can present the business case to that individual. It's dangerous when you just on a one-off basis try to save a contract when you have a whole ecosystem that may hear about that.
Yep, I
Oh,
agree.
you guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. You've got all of their contact information below. These are three brilliant guys. I can actually attest to that. I thank you for doing this. And next up, we have Matt Landau and Heather Bayer. We're talking about the things that we've heard that no one wants to say out loud. So, and these are the things I don't want to write on my website either. So it's kind of an interesting conversation. So anyway, you guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll post this video by Monday. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.